currently, and very often for hog killing or hog butchering, we would use a custom butcher, Cruises. They're in Concord, North Carolina. Right now, if you give them a call to get a date or an appointment to have a hog butchered, it is into 2022. Like, they are over a year out. So we have many times killed our own hogs. You need the right weather, but because of that, and these hogs were already pushing almost 450 pounds, we butchered our own.
Pretty much all of my life since childhood, my family and friends and neighbors have done this, and there's been periods where we skip a year now and then, but for whatever reason. But the biggest reason for getting together and doing it as a group is the manpower. It's very labor intensive, and of course the hogs are hopefully pretty heavy by the time they're ready to butcher, and that way you've got extra hands on board, and it makes the process go a lot quicker, and it's a lot easier on everybody if you can get a group together. Then it's also, from times back, a good way for everybody to socialize and work together and, you know, catch up on the news and whatnot. And there's a lot of camaraderie and you know, touching base with friends and the process, and then keeping the art alive and the process too, and learning the youngsters so they get their hands on and get to see, you know. So that's a big reason for having a group together too, as well as saving labor and making things go easier.
I can't be there when they shoot it, and I was outside talking to that gentleman when they dispatched that one, but those are my neighbors. They already killed my two. My two were named Thelma and Louise, and I rubbed their bellies yesterday. And although when it's time to dispatch them, I can't be right there, when it comes to the butchering, I have no problem. And how I come to terms with that is that they had the best life. They were pasture-raised. They were never hungry, they were never cold, they had a barn to come sleep in, they had a creek to waller in the summer. They had the best life for the 7 or 8 months they lived. But a hog can go from 5 pounds to almost, these were about 450 pounds, and what, I got them in March, and this is January, so, you know, 9 months, that big. Also, with our poultry houses, we have about 200 cracked eggs a day we're supposed to throw away, and we feed those to the hogs. They ate that mixed with whole corn and a little bit of hog pellets twice a day. They were never hungry. Plus, they were on pasture, eating all the pasture they wanted. They'd eat hay with the cows. Yeah. Anyways, they had the best life.
We'll go to the pen where we have our hogs, and we try and separate them, and we'll dispatch them with typically a .22 rifle. Generally, somebody that's been handling them is the one that takes care of it, because they're used to that, and you want to be extremely close if you can. There's no such thing as too close. You know, it's not a trophy match or anything involved like that at the time. You want to be sure and get a quick dispatch, and you need to do it right above the eye line, about 1 inch above the eye line, and typically the animal or your hog will fall right over. And when you get the animal dispatched, we generally cut its throat so it'll bleed out. Yeah, it's kind of tough when you go to the barn with a rifle. It is, and it gets tougher as you get older. It really does. When I was a kid, it seemed like almost you kind of desired for it, but now, you know, it's like, well, you know, I want to eat, and I know I got to do it, but, you know, it's a little tough, but make sure you do a good job and go on and enjoy it.
You're wearing that one?
Heavier than we thought. Well, that is the biggest one. I mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
Two. 60.
Well,
Straight in. Yeah.
And then we'll cut its hind legs where we can get the tendons exposed and get it on the gambrel and get it up so it can be draining, bleeding out. And then, of course, we come to the vat and we start the scalding process. Typically, we try and have the water or the vat ready by about gathering time, so to speak. That way, you're ready to go to work. And you want your water about 140, 145 Fahrenheit. Back in the day, thermometers wasn't readily available, if at all. So I don't know how the process came about. I guess it's trial and error. But most of my ancestors would do the three swipes, and that process is you go 3 times, and if the water's so warm that you don't want to go 4, it's ready to put your hog in and start scalding.
Jerry, that one piece of wool is too much. That one piece of wool.
No, we're good. We're good.
I've been checking it. I thought it was
It was
Yeah, we're
perfect.
good. We're good.
That one piece of wood was perfect.
Yeah, we're good. We're all right.
If you can go more than 3, you need a little more heat, get it a little hotter. If you can go less than 3, it's too hot, and that's a big no-no. If you put the hog in there and you get him too hot, you'll set the hair, and then you've got a disaster. You basically have to shave the hog then, and that's painstaking and pretty nasty and just not much fun. So avoid that, and make sure your water's right. One good thing about these days, typically somebody's got a tractor or a skid steer, as we did, and that way you can get your hog out if the water is getting too warm or whatnot, and you can work a little while it's cooling off. Back in earlier days, a lot of people would use chains, and they'd have them under the hog, and they'd pull the hog out onto a table or whatnot with those.
Yeah.
On the scraping, you can scrape with a knife. It generally don't work quite as well as the bell-shaped things that we were using, and those are just called hog scrapers around here most of the time. And you can find them at a lot of old farm auctions and whatnot. And anyway, those work pretty well. A hoe head without the handle does pretty good, and I have seen a square-pointed shovel used, and that works pretty well on the bigger areas. Once you get your scraping underway and you get him scraped down good, then you're ready to gut the hog. Of course, you need good sharp knives for the gutting.
Oh, okay. You let that hold and get over the limber at 8:15.
Well, anyway.
And key, I mean,
Oh, I got you.
that's what carries the poison in his liver. Okay.
Good, buddy?
Yep.
That's liver and this is lights. Lights is lungs.
Oh.
Somebody's taking that to their dogs.
Got it.
It's very spongy. And, I don't
Got
like
it.
eating it.
Got it.
Liver. This is my hog, so soon I'm going to be taking this stuff and putting it in the house, bagging it up.
Gotcha.
Pick him up, Jeff. Stand on there with him.
What is that? Oh, don't need that. Yeah.
We'll take generally and we'll take an axe and split his pelvis bones and then cut down right by the backbone, bust the ribs with the axe in as straight a line as you can, and make sure you got a good strong helper and a brave one to get on the back side of the hog and hold him open. And you generally use one man for that, and the reason being you don't have two people involved to get cut or an accident to happen. If you just got one, you know, it's generally better. So you split the ribs, get him split all the way down, and then you can take the ribs out then with him hanging, or you can lay him down on a table. It just all depends on what works best for you. When you get him laid out on the table, or you could do this hanging also, but anyway, you'll take there's leaf fat on the inside of the ribs and the lower ribs, and you can take and pull that out.
You want them other two knives?
I'm good right at the moment. I'm just working on getting this old leaf lard out. Ken said he wanted leaf lard.
Well, let him have that. And shoot, no, let Kenneth have the leaf lard.
I ain't figured me and you want to mess with cooking out this
No.
little dab.
We got enough cooking livers.
That's what I thought.
Making liver pudding in the south. We got enough.
And generally, if it's cooled a little bit, that'll be a little bit better consistency to pull out. It'll be a little mushy and sticky if it's still warm. So you may have to wait a little bit, but it all depends on the mood you're in and how well it's going. Get your leaf lard out, and then you can cut your ribs out.
I'll give old Spain credit for one thing. He sharpened my knife.
Kenny,
You that bomb right.
he can sharp me, Kenny.
Yeah, he can.
Make he do nothing else, but he can sharp my knife.
Sharp my knife.
He can sharp my knife.
There's never a dull knife needed at a hog killing. They're worthless. So anyway, good sharp knife, cut your ribs out, get them laid out, and then you can start on the rest of the animal. You can take your head off, which generally we do that even before we gut, but ever how you want to do it there. Take your shoulders off, take your tenderloins out, and your hams off.
When the ham is cut off of the hog, and if anybody wants to know what the ham is, that's that part of the hog, they take those hams and they will cover them with salt.
And if you're going to salt cure them, you may want to trim them a little bit so the salt will lay on them a little better and hang on them. Of course, you need to do that in an area preferably where you can get a lot of salt on it, maybe a wooden box. You need to do that while the ham's still warm if you possibly can.
That ham has to be warm and fresh, and it'll take salt continuously and absorb it into the meat for about 3 days. We leave salt on it a lot longer than that, but about 3 days that ham is going to take probably 90% of the salt that it's going to take. And old timers have a lot of kind of folklore around that. If it's falling weather, the hams won't take salt and they won't cure correctly. Falling weather is rain or snow, or just a cloudy, wet, damp day. It needs to be a bright, sunny, cold day.
Generally, if it's getting into the 40s or 30s at night, and then 50s or so of a day, it's good enough.
You need it not to be super freezing. If the meat freezes too fast, it's going to quit taking salt.
Weather like today with the rain and the overcast skies is not a good time, even if it is cold. The meat wants to draw moisture and it won't take salt so well. So as far as the salt curing goes, that's not good weather. If you get about 3 good days of the right weather, you typically got it made when you're salt curing then. It also coincided with a time of year when a lot of crops and stuff were already harvested and there wasn't a lot going on the farm, and people had more time to get the process took care of also. Once you get your loins out, you'll have your fat back and what's called your middling, which is a lot of people know as bacon these days, but it's called middling. Sometime back and still is somewhat around. But anyway, your middling will be what's the belly, and it'll have lean streaks in it as well as a good bit of fat. And you cut that off, and that's your bacon, middling, side meat, whatever you want to call it. Then the upper part, which is generally pure fat, that's your fat back. Pretty much at that point, your animal's what we call blocked up. Some people call it quartered. When it's blocked up, you're ready for the grinding and the cutting the bacon up, the fat back, whatnot, into portions that you can handle in the refrigerator or wherever, however you're doing it.
I don't know how I'm going to do this. We will cut this into small squares and then put them in freezer bags with this brown sugar, salt, pepper, red pepper. And then we put it in the bottom of the refrigerator and we turn it every day for about 7 to 10 days. And then you have refrigerator bacon. What I do after that is put it in the freezer. Occasionally we've taken those slabs and smoked them. If you smoke them, then they're cured and you don't have to put them in the freezer. But for ease, it's just easy to put them in the freezer. When I get them out of the freezer is when I rinse all the brown sugar, salt, and spices off, and I just slice it with my knife in slices like bacon. Oh, here's a good, see you can see the kind of what you consider bacon striations and stuff. So it's refrigerator bacon.
And how long will that stay good?
In the freezer?
Mm-hmm.
I like to have it eat within a year.
And I'm sure that's not a problem.
No, it is not, but there is only 2 of us and this was a big hog. Okay, so
That's
these
true.
are the ribs, and I will block these into blocks that go into freezer bags, gallon freezer bags, and just freeze them. So because it's this thick and it has to fit in a gallon bag, okay. And that is the skin, and I leave the skin on.
Now, do you turn that into like
This is actually
crackling or anything? Like the skin?
you can
Or what is
on
it?
some
What is it called?
pork skins.
Yeah. Well,
They cut them, they fry them, and they poof up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes. So as you can see, that's sort of the bacon. So this is the mix of brown sugar, salt, black pepper, and red pepper. Some people will add a whole container of maple syrup and mix it in there, and it gives you a little more mapley flavor. Some people add liquid smoke. I hate liquid smoke. So I like to get it coated. And then this goes in the gallon bag and we flip it over. This is probably about half salt, equal parts salt, brown sugar, and then pepper. For me, it's just simplicity. This is about the size that I want when I put it in the refrigerator, because I'll use this amount in about a week, maybe a little longer. So I can do a little bigger, but that's all that it is.
Smells really good.
We got a lot of good sausage, and I've been enjoying some tenderloin, and we've got all kind of good fresh pork goodies that we've been pigging out on. things have changed so much in my life, it's not even funny. And it's so hard for anybody to make a living. It's virtually impossible for the small guy anymore. And, you know, I've got an off-farm job, or we couldn't make ends meet. No way. No way. And that's sad. Yeah, farming's in trouble. Has been a long time, in my opinion. Corporations are, you know, filling your shelves and refrigerators, and you don't know what's in it. You don't know how it's been produced. When I was a kid, my folks took stuff to town, butter, milk, whatever they had that they didn't need themselves, and sold it. And it was fine, and people wanted it. And, you know, now you can't do that. It's got to be inspected and labeled and processed. And anyway, it's a different world, and those times are gone. And the small farmers, pretty much gone. And a lot of people doing it, I think, now are just kind of holdouts, somewhat like the Indians before they were stomped out. There was a few left here and there and whatnot, and there's not a lot left, and they're getting gone fast. And stuff like this too, it's going with it, and I don't know that it's going to come back.